It honestly seems like yesterday. It was a Friday afternoon. It was her 9-month appointment, and I was excited to find out how much she weighed and what the growth chart looked like for her height.
It was one of those situations where you know how when the ultrasound tech is doing it and they sort of are quiet and they're not quite as chatty as they used to be.
He grabbed a box of tissues and went ahead and popped a few out and was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry to have to tell you this, but she has a hole in the upper chamber of her heart."
The cardiologist said, you know, your baby has a congenital heart defect. That was a big blow. We certainly stopped at our tracks then.
I was born with a hole in my heart, and when I went to the doctor, they came back and were like, "Oh, that doesn't sound right."
Oxygenated and deoxygenated blood were mixing together. But over time, it would create an enlarged heart. And so somewhere in her early teens to late teens, she would start suffering severe cardiac problems.
I was born with double outlet right ventricle heart defect, and my aorta and pulmonary valve were both coming out of my right artery. I was 8 months old when I had my first open heart surgery.
It becomes real when they take them away, and and you're fully entrusting somebody to take care of your child.
What does this mean for her future? How will this affect her being able to crawl at that point and walk?
It really was a wait and see kind of diagnosis. We had to watch how she was developing, how she was growing, really a lot of research. And so we realized that around 4 to 5 years of age was probably the earliest we would be able to try and solve this problem.
They were going to put a Band-Aid on her heart, and we would be home in a couple of days.
Now he's going to be attached to cords, and he's going to not be breathing on his own, and he's been on the heart machine, and they can tell you all those things, but when you walk in and see them so vulnerable, that's a biggie.
You're scared and thankful all in the same breath.
We went into surgery. They realized that the hole was a lot bigger than they thought. I was going to have open heart surgery if it didn't end up working.
We're looking at the borders on the heart wall. We think maybe 50-50 chance that this is going to work. Do you want us to proceed?
We prayed. We asked everybody we knew to pray. And I can still remember the team coming out. I can only imagine what it was like when that patch stuck in that operating room, because they were still so excited that it worked. Cheers probably erupted because they were so happy that it was a success.
Will owns his story really well, and his story isn't finished. His heart story isn't finished, and that's okay.
In the future, I'm going to have to get a valve replacement, and it's a scary thought at first, but also, again, just grateful that I'm going to be able to get that procedure done so it doesn't linger, and I can continue to live my life as it is.
Knowing that will have to go through another surgery, I will always be here if he ever needs anything, just because we went through the same thing.
Even though we don't really talk about our condition a lot, it's great to know that I have a friend like Mary Burton that I can call anytime, and especially going into this procedure in the future sometime, that I know that she knows what I'm going through and can help me.
So at a young age, I had the honor to be an honoree at the Heart Ball, and my parents and me, I remember going to get a little dress made, and it was a very special day.
She was a tiny, tiny little girl, but she was mighty.
We're just thankful for the doctors. We're thankful for the Heart Association and the technology that really saved our little daughter's life.
Mary Burton's outcome was obviously very minimal. We only spent a couple of days in the hospital. It could have been a very different outcome, and I know other children do have different outcomes, or different adults, but it's because of the work that the American Heart Association is doing that we're able to see more and more advances in our community and around the world.
Just 8 or 10 years before she's open heart surgery, now we're sitting there, we have solved a significant heart problem with a mere catheter procedure that took less than 2 hours.
I'm just really grateful, due to the research that's been done, that growing up, I didn't have to really worry about any setbacks, and I got to do what I loved, whether it was playing sports or going to football games or doing Boy Scouts. I never really had to worry about not being able to do something, and that was really nice.
Our son Will has benefited from the Heart Association, but you know what? He's not the only one in this community that has. There's a ton of people that have, and a ton of people in the future that will.
Every year that passes and every year that brings advances in research and procedures is a year that will potentially add to his life and certainly make an easier procedure.
It's important to provide and help for the American Heart Association to make stories like ours possible.